This is a Crocodile Kendyll, the apex predator of the rivers and seas. This small hatchling had just woken up from a nap and noticed his mother was gone. He could hear the faint burning of fire, silently being put out by the rain. He searched all over for his mother, but he could not find her. The Kendyll was now on his own. Eventually, this Kendyll found a pond that was littered with bodies of meat. What could these be? As he swam, he noticed another creature, swimming and gnawing on one of the carcasses that floated lifelessly in the pond. He stared at it fearfully, occasionally calling out at it and releasing snaps in an effort to get it to leave. The creature snapped back at him, blowing poison breath at him as he hid underwater. The Kendyll hid silently, only coming up to see the creature when it had landed. He called out as he tore meat off of one of the other carcasses in the water, making sure to watch his back as he ate. After this encounter, he deemed the pond not safe and retreated back into a creek, where he noticed another carcass. What had been killing all of these creatures? He swam out into the ocean, bringing his small piece of food with him. As he was eating, a large land Kendyll rushed after him, catching him completely off guard and almost killing him. He ran as fast as he could, trying to outrun the adult apex that was right on his tail. He ran back into the creek where it would be safe, turning back to where the giant reptile had just been. A large creature that appeared to be covered in moss was chasing after the apex and hitting it. Eventually, it looked as if the other Kendyll died, and the small hatchling was safe once again. The Kendyll was now looking around with the freshly caught prey, scoping out the area for a possible place to live. He noticed that nearby, there was an adult creature looming over beside the pond he had wanted to go to. This creature is called an exiteri and could easily attack and kill the hatchling, so he moved on to another area. After a while of swimming, he came across what would be described as natural underwater caves, a perfect place for a small Kendyll to sleep and live for the time being. After sleeping, he decided to go for a swim, when he found a small mushroom creature swimming about. Since he didn't know what it would do, he swiftly sunk his teeth into its brightly coloured skin, bringing it underwater with him. It is now the Kendyll's first winter. Without the heat of the sun, the Kendyll will not survive. So to combat the cold, he must migrate to the hot springs and hibernate there until spring. Crocodile Kendylls, which have adapted to more harsh environments underwater, cannot live in the desert as babies due to their green coloration and intolerance to heat as a pre-adolescence. He scoped out a cave, appearing to look inside. This would not be warm enough for the entire winter, so he turned around and started his journey to the hot springs. The Kendyll hid himself in a bush as he stalked a fish that seemed to be bobbing atop the creek. He planned his attack. And swiftly went after it as the cold tugged at his feet. A successful hunt, but not without another threat looming nearby. He left the safety of the water for only a minute, and a large creature known as Buckley quickly gained distance on him. The creature took bites at him, making him fall to the ground, but he still got up and ran back to the creek where he would be safe. The water was freezing cold. He could not stay in it for long, or he would die. As he was preparing to get out of the water, he noticed a large plant-like creature, which is named a lerachu. The lera growled and hissed at him as he came upon land, but the Kendyll only cooed back and relented to it, just wanting to get past and out of the freezing cold weather. It took jabs at him, but did not hit him, and he successfully got away. He sat right outside of the cave where he was chased, progressively getting colder and colder. He needed to get to the hot springs within the hour, or he would die. He finally made it. The warm air of the hot springs flowed into him. As he became less lethargic, he made his way over to a pond. But before hibernating, he's seen a small herbivore, which could be a nindeer. As adults, it could easily kill a hatchling, but as a hatchling themselves, they are quite weak. He grabbed onto the nindeer, sinking his teeth into its body and slamming into it. Another successful kill, and a guarantee that nothing would harm him while he was hibernating. He set his food inside the pool, keeping it fresh for when he was to wake. He then buried himself into the mud and sifted himself into a quiet slumber. When he awoke, it was spring. He took a couple bites of his food and abandoned the small pond he slept in for winter after looking around for predators. He decided it was now time to go home. Carrying a piece of meat, he set off, keeping close to the sides of the mountains to not be spotted from any predator that may see him from the desert, which was full to the brim of terrifying creatures. He noticed another small creature that ran past him and stopped in front of him. The Kendyll was full and did not wish to engage in a fight, so he let him take scraps of his food and slept for the night. When he awoke, it was day. Rain pelted his rough skin, and the other smaller creature returned, seeking socialization from the Kendyll. As he was tearing into his food, he heard wind gushing all around them. He didn't think much of it. A tornado blew into the cove and swept him up. He helplessly clawed and scraped at the walls of the earth, clinging onto its side and jumping down when it was over. He was injured, but still needed to escape. He ran across the structure and fled into the hot springs. The Kendyll, now grown into its teenagers, scoured the lands to find a safe place to live. He was hungry and anxious about the tornado that had wrecked through his home. While looking one night, he stumbled upon a glowing bird, which is called a Jotunhell. They are very aggressive creatures who can shoot a water breath and are extremely hardy. After catching quick prey, the Kendyll started towards the coves, his first home and where the tornado had struck previously. Finally, he had made it back into his humid, beautiful home. While he was in his pond, an owl called out to him. He wasn't too keen on having avians in his territory, so he ambushed and grabbed the creature, pulling it underwater and killing it. It was now his second winter. He had made it to the hot springs once again, bringing food with him for after he awakes. It was now spring, the air was warm, and smaller birds were chirping quietly. He returned home to his pond and flowers, happily living out until his adult years, where he would go into the desert to find more of his kind. The Crocodile Kendyll was now an adult, still living in the confines of his cove. He rubs his horns against trees, helping them grow and showing any nearby creatures that this is his territory. Kendyll now tests going to the desert. A pesky Vinru attempts to nip at him, but he kills it quickly, easily, and moves on to the desert, where he sees two other Kendylls protecting their nests. The Kendyll now helps protect the babies of the other Kens, fighting anything that poses a threat or attacks them. The Crocodile Kendyll lived out the rest of his life, protecting and helping grow the small hatchlings, continuing the circle of life.